So what's HTM0502 say about compartmentation? Because it's slightly different for different industries as to what is specified. So obviously the building regulations are your minimum required standards. HTM05 takes these and enhances them slightly to suit the actual healthcare sector. So the maximum size of each compartment shouldn't be more than 2,000 meters squared in a multi-story building, but can be up to 3,000 in a single-story building. But then, of course, there's other situations where you have to divide them into sub-compartments where patient access is more than 750 meters squared, where you've got more than 30 patients in the sleeping accommodation, and if you're over 12 meters above ground level, there should be a minimum of 4 compartments on every floor level, so the tower situation. So just wanted to touch on fire dampers because they're a bit of a crossover there between active protection and passive fire protection. Obviously, there's primarily two different types. So the top one there is the automatic damper, which is interfaced with the alarm system. When the alarm goes off, the vanes will close and then reopen when the alarm's reset. There's also, they can work different ways as part of smoke extract systems as well, but primarily we're just thinking of air conditioning ductwork. And the second one down at the bottom there is a mechanical damper, which is got a fusible link, so when the temperature gets up to around about 70 degrees, the solder melts and allows the curtain to fall, thus stopping the damper, protecting the ductwork. But obviously, before that gets to that temperature, there's going to be a lot of smoke which is passed through that ductwork. So that's why in a lot of the healthcare situations, we would normally be looking at automatic dampers interface, so they close immediately on the alarm being activated.
So what is the current legislation? Well, the main 3 cornerstones we have at the moment are the Fire and Rescue Services Act 2004. This was brought into play as the greatest review to the fire service since around 1947, obviously in the post-war period. Then the Fire Safety Order 2005 came into effect actually October 2006. That's what Howard referred to as the RRO. And then the Equality Act, which came into effect in 2010, and of course replaced the Disability Discrimination Act. Next slide, thank you. Now linked with the Fire Safety Order, we have the Building Regs Document B, and then with the Equality Act Document M. Next slide, please. And then, of course, BS 5839 and HTMO 503, in particular, Part B. Okay, so Part B sets out additional information for the fire detection and alarm systems in healthcare premises. So this is specifically focused on our particular area. It was brought into effect to replace HTM 82, which had been in effect for around about 20 odd years before then. Now, the document should not be used in isolation. It must be used as a supplementary document to BS 5839, current version being 2017. Rumors are that there is going to be another version come out soon. So yeah, it's essential that it's read in conjunction with 5839. And it specifically provides recommendations for NHS healthcare premises, not just hospitals, but also clinics, surgeries, etc. Now, if we got mental health areas, then we might like to think about different ways that we can raise the alarm to staff. And this might be that we have a particular type of sounder that's capable of producing a coded message, like maybe even just a song, music playing. So actually the staff know that that particular song that's playing actually means there's a fire condition, but it doesn't create undue stress to the patients themselves. This is critical areas where patients can escape unaided, and in non-patient areas, the audibility should be in accordance with BS 5839 Part 1.
as you know, that in the guidance for damper testing in healthcare hospitals, it has been, I think there is now that you're in the publication, awaiting the publication since 2014, now published in May this year. And so this really reiterates the importance of having all this in place. So the critical thing is those 3 steps. Have you got a full inventory of all fire and smoke dampers within the premises? And this must include a set of plans showing the location of all dampers. And there must also be access to every damper. And we do know this is a key challenge. There's a number of providers that have this as a challenge, but we're here to support with that process. And we do know that, as you know, with all this, we do know that it's very rare that actually all 3 of those steps are covered and all those requirements are met. But I think the key thing is starting to work through those processes. You might have plans to start from, but that can be worked from. So we're also not just looking at the damper locations, but also looking at the ducting mapping, what can go into that, even down to, and that can also highlight issues around fire stopping and compartmentation requirements. But all of this is assistance when it comes to undertaking those fire safety projects and those large planned programs.
And whereas a respiratory ward might have been that most appropriate ward to treat patients in historically, particularly things with CPAP, which is this massive delivery of oxygen through a hood on a patient, could be sought to be used in other areas of the hospital. And of course, from a fire safety implication, that's quite an important consideration when we look at fire risk assessments. Staff reactions to fire. You know, over the past 18 months, our staff have been having to react to all manner of situations that are not known about, that are unusual, that are new in terms of how they treat patients and things. And a fire situation in some respects is no different to that. Fire will always manifest itself to staff in a way that they don't expect it to. And how do we encompass some of the real quick decision making our colleagues have had to make to deliver services through COVID, to use that in a fire situation? What had happened is, in the second picture, you can see the metal trolley that's at the side of the corridor there. What that was a metal trolley that the facilities colleagues used to go to rooms that were being used for donning and doffing of PPE. So they'd wheel the trolley to the room, fill it full of the stuff that people had thrown into the bins in the rooms that they were using for donning and doffing. Off they'd go to the next room. So it wasn't something that was illicitly stored within the corridor. And this emphasises the importance of those items that are stored along corridors that we all will be familiar with. This was something that was very much transient and was about to be moved on somewhere else, and had only been there probably 10 minutes while colleagues did the jobs. Place the stuff in there, and that's what the individual set fire to. And we can see the seat of the fire there and the significant damage within there. So these are just a series of photographs from the area where the incident was. The corridor that you can see predominantly here with with smoke damage on it, the fire service opened the doors to use that as the route to go in and put the fire out. The door in the bottom corner where you can see the white cable just coming down across the door, 2 things from that photograph. One is, many colleagues on the call will be very familiar with the Shirley Towers incident where cables falling out of ceiling voids were an issue. Fortunately, we only had 1 cable that came out of the ceiling void as a result of the fire damage, but 1 cable can be 1 cable too many. So again, a point about invasive bits above risk assessments and seeing what's going on up there from an operational firefighting point of view. But those sets of doors that you can see immediately went into the resus department, and in the resus department were 3 people who've been involved in a serious RTA and a person at end of life care. So there were some quite significant complications in terms of evacuating those patients, but we were able to have time to do that because those doors performed exceptionally well in terms of the fire. There was nothing on the other side of those doors except a little bit of water that came through that would suggest that there'd been a fire on the other side of the doors. So the compartmentation, the fire doors, overall did exactly what we would expect them to do.